Yes, everybody, welcome back. My name is Stephen Howson, and this is 5 things that we learned watching Manchester United go through to the next round, near enough, against Real Sociedad in the Europa League. In at number 1 then, job done. Manchester United beating Sociedad 4-0 in the first leg away from home basically means it's job done. It basically means that United are more or less now in the hat for the next round. And the draw amongst the non-seeded teams in the round of 32, it was probably the most difficult one that we could have got. At the time of the draw, Sociedad were flying very high in the league, looking fantastic. And I think a lot of us were like, oh no, this is about as tough as a draw as we could have made it. Going into the game, United hadn't won any of our last 9 games against Spanish sides. It didn't bode well, but it didn't play out like that. Now that changed emphatically against Sociedad, obviously last night. After some early misses and sloppy play at the back, United produced a very professional performance. And I thought it was a very interesting game. I thought for the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes, Real Sociedad and United sort of went head to head. Sociedad had a very rigid game plan and they were sticking to that very well. They had narrow spaces in between the two lines. They pressed hard, they pressed high. And once United figured them out, they were like, oh, we can get in behind this defence. We did it almost at will. And once we got the first goal, I thought it was going to be a matter of time. Maybe ride out like a bit of a second win coming early in the second half, pour it on again, get some more goals and get the job done. And that's exactly what we did. Next week's second leg represents a bit of an opportunity now, I think, to rest the likes of Fernandes, Rashford, maybe even Harry Maguire getting the night off. But more or less, job done for United after the first leg. Awesome. Number 2, Fernandes at his best. It was another good performance from Bruno Fernandes, and I'm not getting bored of saying that, sitting here telling you guys that. He produced one of the best performances that we've seen in a United shirt from him. He scored twice. He was also instrumental in United flourishing in transition. The first 25-30 minutes, as we said, they made it tight in between the lines, and he found a way. They sort of moved into a bit of a 4-4-2, and he sort of found a little bit of space there, occupying the sorts of spaces that Mason Greenwood wasn't quite getting into, and that's obviously something that he's got to work on being a number 9. Bruno Fernandes occupied those spaces very well. They didn't shut off the supply to or from Bruno Fernandes. He completed 100% of his dribbles, 81% pass accuracy, made 3 tackles, created 3 chances, 2 big chances. He took 3 shots in all on target, and of course scored 2 goals. So the way he took the second goal in particular, the managing to bend the strike around the keeper, phenomenal. And we've seen some fantastic technique recently from Bruno Fernandes as well, and this was no different. He's now been directly involved in 32 goals in 36 games this season. He's absolutely ridiculous. Dan James cameo. So Dan James has been one of those players that's had to settle for being an unused substitute a lot of late, more often than not this season. And he's done all right when he's been asked to this season, prompting a lot of people to start claiming him being ready to play and start on that right-hand side. Last night, he technically gets an assist for Fernandes' goal. I think that's a little bit on the giddy side. I thought it was probably a heavy touch, but it will go down as an assist to him, and he was in the right place and had his run spotted by Marcus Rashford. And then he had a really well-taken goal to make it 4-0 for Manchester United. He did look bright, and he looked bright going forward, and he worked hard defensively, and he was unlucky for it maybe not to have got a second goal on the night, as he was narrowly called offside for the first goal. But he has been directly involved now in 3 goals in his last 2 appearances, the other one coming in the 9-0 win over Southampton. And I don't think he's necessarily deserving of regular starts, but I do think there's probably an option there off the bench in certain positions. And the one thing that I think that he does, and I think this is what I think people kind of got a little bit carried away with this, and it's not the first time that this happens. We've seen it when Dalot played right wing. Because we don't have anybody that plays on the right as a right winger, when someone puts in a decent performance, it gets built up to be something that it wasn't. What I think it shows to me is that you can got someone like Dan James who can be an impact off the bench. I don't think he's got the final third abilities to be a regular starter for United, but he could provide useful off the bench and certainly give someone a rest when they're in need of it. What it tells me, if you've got a genuinely top class player like a Sancho who could play off the right hand side, or even, I've mentioned this a few times, Traore off the right hand side, then I think you'd really start to see something in that final third. And I think you would really start to see United start to click into gear. The one thing that he did that I think really helped the rest of the team was just holding his position on that right-hand side and staying wide. Pretty much everybody else, including Mason and Marcus, when we put them on the right-hand side, they drift into the centre. And it's happened with Jesse Lingard, it's happened with Juan Mata, it's happened with every single player that we've put on the right-hand side for years and years now. United have, as a board and as an organisation, have really undercooked every single manager we've had by not providing him someone that can play off that right-hand side naturally. Number 4, Diallo debut. So we finally got to see him. We finally got to see what he was all about, and I think we were a little bit robbed of his debut in the Cup a couple of weeks ago, but he did make his maiden appearance in Turin last night. 18-year-old looked very lively as he came on in the closing stages of the match. He was only on for 12 minutes, but in that time he completed 3 dribbles. No attacker on the field completed more than that throughout the entire match, and in fact only Scott McTominay, who managed 4, completed more amongst any other player at all on the pitch. So very bright for 12 minutes, and good to finally see him. I think there's something in him. I think there's a real spark in him, and we saw him on the left. I wouldn't mind seeing him off the right to see what he's all about. And I think he's probably in now with a very good chance of getting a full 90, or at least a start. He might come off towards the end, but at least a start, I would think, in the return leg at Old Trafford next week. There's nothing for us to lose, and there's everything for us to gain, because if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, let's say you give Tony Marshall the number 9 for the night, you say, right, go and get your confidence back, start the whole game. You've got Diallo off the right, you've got Dan James off the left, you've got players who aren't playing or need games, maybe even Donny van der Beek gets an opportunity, maybe that's a bit giddy. You just play all of these players that look for a little bit of rotation, and you see what you're able to go and do. But because we got the job done last night, I think that the chances of us doing something like that are a lot higher coming into this game next week. But we've got to start replicating this form. Number 5, we've got to replicate this form. So it's all well and good playing Sociedad off the park in the Europa League. And we've seen this loads of times. We saw it with LASK last season. United have now got to replicate that form and turn around the fortunes in the league. United sit in second, but we've allowed points to drain away over the last few weeks. And maybe that was just par for the course. You know, we had such a brilliant run from November up until a couple of weeks ago. Maybe we were always going to drop a handful of points. And maybe we picked up points we shouldn't have, and we dropped points we shouldn't have, but we evened out overall. I think if United now can start putting a run together, starting with Newcastle this weekend, Newcastle are going to defend resolutely. You know what Steve Bruce is all about. There's absolutely no shocks in there. But we are capable of sweeping aside a team like Newcastle. For me, I don't think United are quite on the level of Manchester City. And I don't think that's, I don't think anyone should have an issue with me saying that. I think they're a level above. And when Manchester City go and play teams like this, they absolutely sweep them aside. What this United team needs to do to start becoming a team that might be in title contention, because I never felt like we were this year. For a team that can start to take the step up to that next level, you have to start acting like a team that's already on that level. And you do that by turning up at places like Newcastle and taking all 3 points without a struggle, because that's where it should be. You should be able to stick your boot in their neck and just kill them off and take all 3 points. That's what we need to do to make sure we are in the hat and in the Champions League for next season. And I think we're more than capable of doing that. Right, cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Little subscribe button down there. There's also memberships that you can join on here if you want to join the Patreon group, but you can't because of whatever country you're in or whatever, because I know there's some restrictions. They're getting nothing extra that the Patreon group don't get. It's exactly the same as Patreon, but if you prefer to join Patreon, the link for that will be in the description below. Come check it out, come support the channel, and you get a little bit of extra content on that as well. And the vlogs will be returning soon as Boris lets us reduce, social distancing and stuff like that. So cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. Check out Patreon, all the memberships below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.